so we are looking at least square regression. We worked out a problem in the last class. There are some sum of performance metrics which we need to discuss, right. So all these come under the category of basically characteristics which determine the goodness of a fit, okay, how good or how bad a fit is. The performance metrics are, first, before the correlation you had all the data and you had the y bar, that is a y mean. So the sum of the deviation from the mean of all the data, this is ST, okay, this is, you can call it as total, sum total, whatever. SR is a residue which is yi minus y fits whole square sigma. Now the correlation, the coefficient of determination is basically what is the percentage or how much reduction is brought about in ST by proposing a correlation wherein you fit y as a function of x, and root of this coefficient of determination is the correlation coefficient, okay. There is one more quantity of interest which is basically the standard error of the estimate. The standard error of the estimate is yi minus y fit a whole square divided by n minus 2 whole to the power of r, whole to the power of half. It is something like an RMS error, okay. RMS error is root mean square error. So if there are n data points, so you, it is basically that numerator is actually S, the numerator is actually SR, but why are we dividing by n minus 2 and not n? What is this n minus 2 doing? Suppose we ask this question, yeah, any guesses?
There are 2 points of an exact fit.
Between endpoints we neglect
2 points?
Between exact fit.
Correct. If it is a straight line, if it is y is equal to ax plus b, if you have 2 points, there is no question of error, it will be an exact fit. Therefore this formula breaks down, or this formula is meaningless if you try to do a linear fit for 2 points. So when n is equal to 2, it becomes, the denominator becomes 0, it becomes infinity and all that, which does not mean that standard error is infinity. That means stupid, don't use this formula for n equal to 2, that is what it says. So we want to be careful. So n is much greater than 2. Many, usually in experiments you have 20 data points, 30 data points and 40 data points. So suppose I develop a correlation, Nusselt number is a function of Reynolds number, Prandtl number, I have 40 or 50 data points. Instead of dividing by 48, if I divide by 46, it will not make much difference, I will get the same standard error. So this n equal to n and n minus 2 look so different if n is very small. If n is large, it does not matter at all, okay. Now any correlation which has a high r squared, is it necessarily a good correlation? Any correlation which has a high r squared is a good correlation purely from a statistical perspective, but we do not know whether there is a causal relationship between x and y, okay. For example, the number of rainy days in a year, you put it as a fraction, number of rainy days in India in a year, number of T20 matches won by India in a particular year, and look at the data for the last 5 years, it may have a very beautiful correlation, but the correlation is not there. I mean, you are just trying to plot 2 irrelevant things, so that is called a spurious correlation. There are other frequent example is okay, so salaries of everybody, salaries of all the people are going up. For example, if you take prof salaries, it may not go at the rate at which we desire, but let us say prof salaries are going up, okay. You plot last 10 years, it shows an increasing trend. You take a completely arbitrary quantity, hopefully an arbitrary quantity, consumption of alcohol for example, okay. Last 10 years it is also going up, it may beautifully correlate. with an R square of 0.95. It doesn't, you cannot start writing a theory and write a paper based on that. Okay. So you have to know what are the variables you are correlating, whether that y is really a function of x, that you will have to figure out. This can come when you do experiments, or when you are looking at the non-dimensional form of the equations and you are arriving at the variables and so on. So you have to be very strong in physics to figure this out. Statistically, you can generate many correlations and fits and so on, but you have to be careful. Okay, the physics should be there. All right. Now let us look at I briefly talked about this in the last class, cooling of a first order system. Mercury in glass thermometer kept in a patient's mouth and so on. So right, if you have something which has surface area A, mass m, and outside you have h and T infinity. Okay, so this is the thing under consideration. This you can take as the supporting rod or thermocouple leads, whatever. So this is under consideration. The whole thing is T, the function of temperature only. Okay, the governing equation is called a first order system. There are some inherent assumptions. Okay, the heat transfer coefficient is constant, it does not depend on the temperature of the body, which is a questionable assumption, right. The mass is constant, specific heat is constant, all these are not questionable assumptions, these are all okay, but the heat transfer coefficient is constant. Under natural convection this is not so, the heat transfer coefficient is really variable, but we keep it constant. Next, because the body is cooling and it is dissipating the heat to the surroundings, the temperature of the surroundings is not increasing, that is why it is a first order system. Okay, but we can complicate this by having a second order system. How can I have a second order system? For example, there is a young child, small child, infant, okay, it is crying for milk. So the mother is trying to prepare baby food, so she is putting lactogen or whatever and hot water, and then she is preparing. It is too hot, so what they first do is they will pour this to see the temperature, they will check the temperature. If you have seen carefully, first they will check the temperature. If it is too hot, what they will do is you put it in a bucket or a tub full of water. Now it is mCp dt by dt is minus HA delta T. Unfortunately, the T infinity is the temperature of the surrounding water, that fellow will start going up because this heat is going there. Now we can model it as a second order system, we can work out the solution for that also, but this is not a heat transfer class. We can do that in a heat transfer class, it is possible to do, right. That is a second order system where T infinity keeps changing, but in this case it is relatively straightforward. We can keep T infinity constant, and what is the goal of this? It is possible for you to estimate the time constant if you have a temperature versus time history. If you have a temperature versus time history, basically the funda is very simple. You can generate different curves for different values of tau 1, tau 2, tau 3 and so on. There will be one particular value of tau at which sigma theta I minus theta I fit whole square I is equal to 1 to n is minimum. Okay, that is the best estimate of the time constant for the system. From the time constant tau, if you know m, if you know Cp, if you know area, it gives you a very simple and inexpensive method to determine the heat transfer coefficient. So this is the measurement of heat transfer coefficient using an unsteady heat by conducting unsteady heat transfer experiments. Okay, but the assumption here is the heat transfer coefficient is a constant. Unfortunately, the heat transfer coefficient is not a constant. The heat transfer coefficient is usually a variable because the heat transfer coefficient depends on the temperature difference, that is the Rayleigh number. Okay, so you remember. So for example, let us take a Limca bottle. For argument's sake, I will make it a cylinder like this. Now it is hot. I want it to cool down. So I keep it in the refrigerator. How will the boundary layer develop? Top view is like this. Huh? Natural convection boundary layer. How will it develop? What? It will develop like this, right? Okay. What will happen is this boundary layer, the heat transfer. So the boundary layer is actually an impediment to the boundary layer is an impediment to the heat transfer. The thickness of the boundary layer, rather the heat transfer coefficient is inversely proportional to the thickness. So if you are somehow able to get the average thickness of the boundary layer, the heat transfer coefficient is inversely proportional to the average thickness. So we do boundary layer theory, we do solutions of Navier-Stokes equation, we do experiments basically to get this boundary layer thickness, so that from boundary layer thickness we will get the heat transfer coefficient. So the heat transfer coefficient is going to be a function of the Rayleigh number. Okay, so the Rayleigh number is G beta delta T L cube by nu alpha. L could be the length or it could also be the diameter, that we will not worry, the appropriate length scale has to be taken. This delta T keeps decreasing for a problem like this. So if you want to appropriately model this, so you will say that the Nusselt number goes as A into Rayleigh number to the power of B. If you model this as Nusselt is equal to A Rayleigh number to the power of B, this Rayleigh number has got the temperature delta T is T minus T infinity, which is nothing but theta. Therefore, where in this time constant you have to substitute for this heat transfer coefficient as Nusselt number and finally declare that the unknowns are A and B, and then using your least square regression it is possible for you to get A and B. This Sparrow did, and he wrote a paper 30 years back. It is in the ASME Journal of Heat Transfer. Okay, but now what my students are doing is, if there is a convection and radiation, how to simultaneously estimate Nusselt number as well as emissivity, or using unsteady, can I simultaneously get Cp if I do not know what the material is, Cp as well as H, or if this is not a lumped capacitance system, temperature is a function of X and T, can I simultaneously get alpha and can I get alpha and emissivity and so on. So these are all inverse heat transfer problems where you actually run some experiments, you know that there is a mathematical model and use some least square minimization or least square regression and ferret out or invert or retrieve the parameters. Okay, so now we will solve a small problem on this, which I composed before coming to the class, so hopefully it works. Problem number 18. Akshay, what is it? Problem number 18. Okay, consider the cooling of a first order system. Consider the cooling of a first order system. Consider the cooling of a first order system of mass m. Consider the cooling of a first order system of mass m, specific heat Cp, and surface area A. Consider the cooling of a first order system of mass m, specific heat Cp and surface area A at an initial temperature of Ti, at an initial temperature of Ti degrees Celsius, T subscript I. Okay. Such a system is placed in cold quiescent air. What does it mean? Huh?
Stationary.
Still air. Such a system is placed in cold quiescent air at T infinity equals 30 degrees Celsius. At T infinity is 30 degrees Celsius with the heat transfer coefficient of H equal to 8 watts per meter squared Kelvin. So T infinity from the experimental data given below, determine the time constant tau. Determine the time constant tau and the initial temperature Ti. Evaluate the standard error of the estimate. So the standard error is in the estimate of the temperature. Okay, evaluate the standard error of the estimate and the correlation coefficient. Evaluate the standard error of the estimate of the temperature and the correlation coefficient. The standard error is not in the tau, right? Because this correlation is basically you will get a correlation to get the temperature. Whenever you use that correlation to get a temperature, it is associated with the standard error. Okay. So first you have to do some tricks to convert it into a linear regression, right? It is not a power law form, it is an exponential form. I will give you the data. So you have to open out a 70 mm column, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have 10 columns. Y bar, Y fit, Y minus, Y fit, Y minus, Y bar. So many columns are there. Huh? So 10 seconds, 10, 30, 60, theta is T minus T infinity. Right, so you can start with this. So first reduce it to the standard equation of a straight line. So I can straight away call this as x. Now I have to open a column, ln theta, this will become y, correct. Then x squared, xy, y bar, y fit, so what is the last row?
Total
Last row,
summation total.
sigma of all. Yeah, even the quiz and the exam you have to show all the steps, even if you have a calculator which does all this. I want all the columns, I want all the entries to be filled up, right. Right. Yeah, please go ahead and just take attendance. X 1050, good. Sigma y,
23.63.
okay. Here, yeah, you have these basic things. Now you have to get x square and xy. How many of you got the x square? Some 2,11,260 something, right? Okay, so x squared is 100. Correct? How much is it? 214500. XY, two two 2275.3, 2280, okay. When you take this log and all that, it depends on where you stop, no, second decimal place, or there will be some small variations, that is all right. Time constant, instead of 200 seconds you may get 198 or 203, it is okay. It should not, you should not get 2000 instead of 200. All right. Now with this you can work out your A and B. correct. Now we can regress A and B or regress for A and B, whatever. How much is it, Deepak? Okay, minus 0.01. How much is it? 4 point? Okay. I want each one of you to get this, pretty straightforward, right? So in the days before regression, before Gauss, probably people plotted the thing on a log sheet, or and then they took a scale and they drew an approximate curve and got all this, the intercept and all this. But now we have advanced regression and all this. There is no need to do all. There is no need to do that desi kind of curve fitting and what you do in school, trying to get the intercept, slope, and right. You can get accurate values. Of course, you can mathematically complicate the model further and further, and beyond a certain point, it's not possible to do hand calculations. You can write computer programs. There are plenty of tools which are available. MS Excel can do a little bit of regression. You've got DataFit for Windows. You've got Axum. MATLAB can do it. You can have Sigma plot. There are so many software packages which are available. There is something called DataFit for Windows, which has a 30-day free trial. Okay, any form of any fit between x and y you want, you name it. You put fancy fit, y equal to a to the power of b to the power of t square plus a b t square, something whatever you want to put, a b c d, it will just give it the values of a b c d and all that. Okay, so nonlinear regression is possible. Tools are available to do nonlinear regression, but basically the physics must come from the user. You must know that it is y goes with x or t in this particular form. Okay, once you have this form, then if you have done good experiments or you have got good simulation data, you can use the simulation data or experimental data with a powerful equation and go ahead and do curve fitting or regression and get the best estimates. Now you can get the y bar. What is y bar? 2.9175. Y fit. So you can invert it. So finally theta equal to what is theta I?
3 power 4, 1.73.
70 point. Therefore this is one of the questions posed, right? What is the initial temperature? Please look at the question. What is the initial temperature? Right? See, initially it is cooling down like mad, right? Exactly at the 0th second we don't know what the initial temperature is. That's why it is always subjected to error. So you can use regression and go back and find out this theta I, right? If you have If you have already measured this, then you can verify whether the measurement you have made is accurate or not, because whether it corroborates with your findings from the regression. Are you getting my point? It is very difficult to measure the initial temperature exactly when you are trying to measure, already 1 second has elapsed, right. How good is your time constant? When you look at the stopwatch and try to look at the thermometer, that 0 is the critical point, so we will leave. So normally because we are having so many data points, it is possible for us not only to retrieve tau, it is also possible for us to retrieve theta I. Then you have an additional measurement, suppose it says 100 degrees or 100.5 or something, and this says 101, it is alright. So they are of same order, alright. So Y fit, can you tell me the Y fit values please? 4.17 97
97.
2.42, 1.71, 1.1, 1.19,
1
19.
okay, Y minus Y fit. Is it okay? 4.17, 3.97, 3.6, 3.3, 2.9, 2.90 you are getting, is it? Yeah, please do these two columns, you will get ST and SR, and then you can get the correlation coefficient, right. Can you tell me these values? Please don't feel lazy, complete it. You still don't know whether your estimates are good or not, unless you work out the last two columns, you will not know whether the correlation coefficient is good. Yeah, somebody can tell me, Vikram or 4 point
84, 10 minus 4.
more 4, okay.
2.25 into 10 minus 4. 9 into 10 minus 4. 1.68 into 10 minus 3.
Varun
6.25 into 10 minus 4.
minus
4.
10 minus 4.
1.69 into 10 minus 4.
0.017.
yeah. Last one
0.0150.
okay. Yeah, get the sigma. Point not 5, not 4. How much is it? Not 4. Good. Now Y minus Y bar is easy. 1.51. Is it correct? Yeah. .1 is it? How much is it? 0.997 R is a very terrific correlation. The correlation coefficient is very high, it's very good. So it is a very accurate representation of the data. That means if you are able to regress the data, if you propose that the data can be represented as e to the power of minus t by tau, then 99.7% of the variance in the data can be explained by proposing this curve. Okay, standard error. SR okay. How much is it? 0.08. The standard error of the estimate is 0.08, about 0.1, which is okay. That means at a particular time t, if you are using the correlation and obtaining the theta, there is a 99% chance that this theta will lie between this mean and plus or minus 3 times 0.1, correct. So there is a 99%, you can have 99% confidence that the theta will lie in that estimated value plus or minus 3 times 0.08. So that gives you the confidence level with which you can predict. So this is also an additional measure, it is an independent measure, okay. This is an independent measure of what is the confidence you have in the estimates. So since it is 0.08, when theta is high, it is not a very serious, theta is high if 0.08 is small, so it is okay, but when the theta is going down, then this will become comparable. Therefore if you want to do the experiments intelligently, you must try to use the maximum data when the system is hot. When the system is approaching the temperature of the surroundings, when the theta itself is very small, are you getting the point, when sufficient time has elapsed, since the theta itself, the driving force for heat transfer itself is small, it is more error prone, other effects may come into play, right. In fact you can subdivide the data into three sets, early part, middle part and final part. For each of these parts you may get a different value of tau, okay. So these are all additional things when you do experiments, design of experiments and this thing, you learn all this. If you actually try to measure for some company or when you are trying to do some research and all this, these are the additional factors which you will have to consider, fine, okay. So this will be a typical question in your quiz or this thing, so it will take about half an hour, you patiently do. I will give you about 8 or 10 data points, so you will have to do this patiently, and maybe it will not be the linear form, I can give some other forms. So it may be possible that I will give you some sentences in English, from that you convert it into mathematical form and get the equation theta is equal to theta I, and then use this data, and it will not be plug and play, I will not say, then it will be just a mathematics class, right. X is known to vary with y like this, x and y are given, find out the estimates. I mean, where is the design and optimization of the thermal systems or energy systems there, right. That modeling is also a part of the course, okay. Now there are some other forms which are amenable to regression, linear regression, we will see those forms. So let us look at functions of more than one variable. So y is a function of the efficiency of an IC engine, okay, or the efficiency of a fan and duct system, the function of 2-3 parameters, flow rate, this thing, head and so on. Now suppose I propose that the simplest linear form, right, correct. I can now propose a yes. Are there too many brackets? Okay, so that is yi minus y fit. This has to be minimized. So I can do three equations, three unknowns. What is the immediate provocation for trying to understand a form like that? For example, flow over a if you have flow over a cylinder, okay, so the result number goes as a Reynolds number to the power of m, Prandtl number to the power of n. This is also turbulent flow over a pipe, Dittus-Boelter equation, Seidel-Tat equation. So if you take ln nu, is it a linear form? Y is equal to C0 plus C1 x1 plus C2 x2, where x1 is Reynolds number, x2 is the Prandtl number. Like that, there are several systems in heat transfer in thermal engineering where this power law form can be reduced to the linear form. Okay, this power law of, so right, so this is called multiple linear regression. So it is not only that you have to stop with one variable, you can do several variables, and it is not that you should always have only straight line if it is a power law form also, but if you have nu equal to a rem Prandtl n plus c something, then you are sunk, then it becomes a nonlinear regression. So for certain kinds of problems you can do all this Jamela, you can do all these tricks, these will all work. Beyond a certain point you have to do hands up and then go for nonlinear regression. It's not that it cannot be done, you have to do nonlinear regression, which is a little more difficult. Alright, now what are the other forms which can be reduced? Y is equal to ax to the power of b. What is our proposal? How do you convert to straight line? Ln. Y is equal to a e to the power of bx same ln y plus
bx.
Okay, I will give you some more forms. Can this be done? Can this be done? How? Good. So take 1 by y. 1 by y is b plus x by ax, right. So here 1 by y okay, so this will becomes y if I put a b you will get confused. I will put y is equal to mx plus c. Okay, so a e to the power of x, a e to the power of minus bt, a x to the power of b, a x1 to the power of b into x2 to the power of c, a x by b, b plus x, a by b plus x. A by b plus x can also be done, right. 1 by y is b plus x by a and all that. So there are some forms which are amenable to manipulation. If you are able to manipulate, then you can reduce it to form which will eventually lead you to a straight line, and you can use y is equal to mx plus c and solve. However, all these tricks will stop at some stage. There are some problems, regardless of all, you can do all sorts of manipulation, you will get stuck. For these problems you will have to essentially go for nonlinear regression, right. So in the next class we will discuss nonlinear regression.